Chapter 2849. Is this a robbery? Rumble, rumble, rumble. The humongous fan carried the horrifying power of the law of wind. When the fan was fanned towards him, a mighty typhoon formed in front of the fan. The horrifying attack shocked Wuxia. He protected his vital parts with the unbeginning sacred wings. Boom! Waves of horrifying wind energy rushed towards him. His arms and legs were easily blown away like dandelions by the wind energy attack, disappearing without a trace. Only the parts protected by the unbeginning sacred wings were not destroyed. The horrifying power of the typhoon sent his body flying into the distance again. This time, the flying was even more ferocious, even more tragic. Wuxia felt himself whistling in the air. The speed at which he was being fanned was twice as fast as when he was flying at full speed. He bumped into other trees along the way, and they didn't even have time to react. What kind of concept was this? His head began to crack. Wuxia mobilized his energy to protect his head and heart. Wuxia's face was unusually pale as he recovered and cracked again and again. Damn it! It's been 2 days. I haven't seen a single wind jade in 2 days. What's going on in the windless forest? At the same time, in the depths of the windless forest, an old man shrouded in the law of wind scanned his surroundings with a bitter look. It had been more than 2 days. He had been in the windless forest for more than 2 days, and he hadn't seen a single wind jade. There was only one treasure in the windless forest, wind jade. However, he hadn't gotten a single one. Some of the emperor gods who had entered had already returned. He was indignant. He continued to venture deeper after consuming a huge amount of energy. However, the outcome was the same as the entrance. There wasn't even a feather on the wind jade. This made him slightly annoyed in his heart. The windless forest only lasted for 3 days. Time is almost up. Damn it. He couldn't help but curse, and was ready to return. Boom. However, at this moment, something seemed to fly out from the depths. He was taken aback and quickly looked over. Is that a human? What a horrifying speed. No, he's been attacked and he's severely injured. He lifted his head, and could only see a blurry figure. Seeing the figure disappear, he looked towards the depths of the windless forest. How did he come out from the depths of Windless Forest Valley? What's going on? All the wind jades have disappeared. Is it related to this figure? His expression changed slightly as he looked in the direction where the person had disappeared. Gritting his teeth, he moved and chased in that direction. However, with the interference of the trees, his speed was very slow. Bam, bam, bam. Under the attack of the tree at the end of the Windless Forest Valley, Wuxia once again experienced the feeling of being thrown backward. This time, it was even more terrifying than the last. The powerful impact caused his body to quickly crumble, and the attack sent him flying hundreds of millions of miles away. Along the way, his body crashed into the huge mountain peak and directly smashed through it. One could imagine how terrifying that attack was. Boom! Somewhere in the windless forest, Wuxia's body landed heavily on the ground, forming a humongous pit. Cough, cough. Wuxia, who was lying in the huge pit, coughed out blood and looked extremely pale. This time, the injury was more than 10 times worse than the last time. However, as long as he kept his life, it wouldn't be too difficult for him to recover. Looking around, he revealed a speechless expression. This attack had sent him flying across half of the windless forest. Unlike the previous time, he didn't encounter any beauties this time. Wung. At this time, Wuxia sensed the communication stone plate in the nest vibrating. He took it out and revealed a smile. Sky Array Orochi and the rest were rushing over. Let's recuperate here. Wuxia hesitated and thought to himself. After recuperating, he would look for Jean Fa Woody to catch up before returning to the Dragon Palace. With a swift move, he flew to a spot not far from the huge pit and sat cross-legged to recuperate. This time, his injuries were indeed severe. His body had been destroyed hundreds of times. If it wasn't for his divine dragon body and strong dragon energy, he might have died. However, it was all worth it. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Wuxia absorbed the surrounding spiritual energy to rapidly recuperate from his injuries. The loud sound came from this direction. Let's go and take a look. Could it be that some treasure has been unearthed? Treasure? How dare you think? Other than wind jades, what other treasures are there in the windless forest? We're really unlucky this time. We didn't get many wind jades. Damn it. However, not long after Wang Xian sat cross-legged to recuperate, voices were heard. On the right, more than 20 figures were flying over. As they flew, they chatted with each other. They didn't look too good. Other than encountering more than 20 wind jades in the beginning, they didn't have such good luck ever again. They didn't even get any wind jades, which infuriated them. After 2 consecutive days without any harvest, they were even more irritable. When they heard the loud sound, they rushed over immediately. There's a huge pit over there. There's no treasure in it. More than 20 people flew over and frowned as they scanned the area. Look, Brother Long. There's someone there. At this time, a middle-aged man pointed to Wang Xian, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground. Everyone looked over and saw a pale-faced young man covered in blood sitting there cross-legged. The young man looked extremely weak. It's him, Brother Long. He's one of the people we met at the beginning. Suddenly, a young man stared at Wang Xian and exclaimed, "Seems like it." Brother Long, who was the leader, raised his eyebrows as he sized Wang Xian up. He had some impression of the young man in front of him. When they met more than 20 wind jades, there were already 5 of them there. This young man was one of them. At this time, Wang Xian, who was sitting cross-legged, also sensed the arrival of people. He opened his eyes slightly and looked around. He recognized the group of disciples from 8 Desolates. He took out an elixir pill and placed it in his mouth. Then, he closed his eyes and ignored them. This guy seems to be seriously injured. Seeing Wang Xian open his eyes and close them again, one of the middle-aged men commented, "Brother Long, did you notice that the elixir pill he took just now seemed to be of a very high level?" Suddenly, a skinny middle-aged man on the left had a passionate look in his eyes. "What?" Brother Long and the rest looked at the skinny middle-aged man with doubts. The skinny middle-aged man didn't say a word. He stared at the figure in front of him and couldn't help but lick his lips. In the next moment, he moved and took out an imprisonment ring and locked it on Wang Xian. Chapter 2850, Trouble Arises. That brat Tan Lang. Seeing the skinny middle-aged man charging towards the young man, the disciples from 8 Desolation frowned and shook their heads. However, they did not stop him. Tan Lang was the name of the middle-aged man. As for whether that was his real name, they had no idea. Tan Lang was an alchemist guru and knew a lot about elixir pills. At the same time, they knew that Tan Lang was famous for his greed. Once he encountered a treasure, he would not give it up as long as there was a chance to get it. Seeing Tan Lang taking out the confinement circle and charging towards the young man, coupled with what Tan Lang had said just now, they knew that the elixir pill that the young man had consumed was not simple. Tan Lang wanted to strike. The disciples from 8 Desolation looked on emotionlessly with smiles on their faces. At this moment Wang Xian, who was sitting cross-legged, opened his eyes slowly. He saw a confinement circle coming towards him. He looked at the middle-aged man in front of him, who was filled with greed. There was no fluctuation in his eyes. The confinement circle arrived above his head and locked him in place. Seeing the confinement circle locking him in place, the skinny middle-aged man was filled with excitement and greed. Bam! Wang Xian's eyes were cold as the confinement circle above his head collapsed. Rumble! In the next moment, Tan Lang's eyes widened and were filled with horror. His face was filled with horror as he stared at his own body. He discovered that his body was actually slowly splitting apart. His body was rapidly dissipating. Great horror befell him as the threat of death made him tremble violently. No. His eyes were filled with horror and despair as he stared at Wang Xian in front of him. What? The disciples from 8 Desolation, who were watching the show from behind, were shocked when they saw Tan Lang's body collapsing and dissipating rapidly. Oh no, that young man is very strong. Brother Long, who was the leader, was shocked as he shouted. He moved and wanted to protect Tan Lang. No. However, at this moment, Tan Lang's body had completely collapsed and was disappearing bit by bit. He could never imagine why this young man was so terrifyingly strong. Back then, when they had tried to snatch the wind jade from the other party's hands, The other party did not even dare to resist. Why did he suddenly erupt with such terrifying strength now? How strong was he to be able to render a 6th-order immortal god king realm expert powerless? Humph. Seeing Ravenous Wolf's body turning into ashes, Wang Xian snorted coldly. He turned to Brother Long, who had tried to save Ravenous Wolf. Boom! In the next moment, a terrifying flame appeared around Brother Long. What? Not good. Hurry up and get reinforcements. The flames engulfed Brother Long. He was horrified as he stared at Wang Xian, who was sitting cross-legged, and shouted immediately. Boom! However, at that moment, the flames grew stronger and enveloped his body, causing him to dissipate before he could even scream. Dead. From Tan Lang's death to Brother Long's death. It all happened in the blink of an eye. However, the young man who was sitting there did not move at all. He stared coldly at them. What kind of strength was this? 8th Order Undying God King? Could an 8th Order Undying God King do it? Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, all of them trembled, and their eyes were filled with shock. They had offended someone they could not afford to offend. A middle-aged man quickly took out an item and sent it into the sky. In the sky above the windless forest, the 8 Desolation Disciples' distress signal could be heard. Wang Xian lifted his head and frowned slightly. What a bummer. He stood up slowly as waves of aura emanated from his body. This was the second time he had met this group of people. Previously, when Wang Xian was about to make a move, Invincible Zhan happened to arrive, and they managed to escape. But now, they dared to provoke him by using the confinement circle. What were they trying to do? Rob? Or kill him? Hee. Wang Xian stared at them, and could not help but feel amused. They were lucky to be able to rob the Celestial Emperor. What a terrifying aura. Waves of aura emanated from Wang Xian's body. Their faces changed drastically as cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. It has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with us. Several middle-aged men hurriedly shouted. A few young men at the side trembled slightly as their figures turned illusory. They wanted to escape back to their own holy kingdom. Boom! But in the next moment, a terrifying aura rippled, and their illusory figures gradually solidified. This is impossible. The few of them roared in disbelief as their bodies trembled. What kind of existence was this young man? A bunch of fools who are courting death, Wang Xian said plainly. The surrounding energy vibrated slightly. A wave of energy that made them despair rushed towards him. No. The remaining 20-odd people shouted in horror. Bam, bam, bam. In the next moment, the corpses fell to the ground. Swish, swish, swish. As the corpses fell, they lost their defense and triggered the wind. The surrounding trees launched their attacks. Branches and leaves fell on them, penetrating their bodies. It was a gruesome scene. The evils brought upon themselves were the hardest to bear. Over there. That's the location of the 8 Desolation Disciples' distress signal. They must have encountered some danger. The disciples who came this time are all divine kings. Could they be fighting for the Wind Jade? At the same time, not far away, more than a dozen figures were flying towards them at high speed. In other places, the distress signal from the Octoterra Desolation Disciples also attracted many Octoterra experts and disciples to rush over. When the disciples of the other factions saw the distress signal, their faces were filled with curiosity. Some of the disciples who were closer also rushed over. There was a high possibility that the signal flare was sent to fight for the Wind Jade. They were all here for the Wind Jade. Naturally, they wanted to take a look and see if they could get anything out of it. Someone's here so soon. At this moment, Wang Xian walked towards the group of corpses. Before he reached the group of corpses, he sensed that someone was flying towards him. There were a dozen figures, and they were stronger than the people he killed. The leader was a 9th-level immortal king realm old man. Where are the 8 Desolation Disciples? A dozen people flew over. One of the old men scanned the surroundings and shouted in confusion. Look down! One of them shouted immediately. The dozen people looked down. When they saw the 20-odd corpses, their faces were filled with murderous intent. Their eyes quickly fell on Wang Xian, who was in front of the corpses. Surround him. One of the old men roared and emitted a strong murderous aura. Chapter 2851. The 8 desolations must kill him. One rumble, rumble, rumble. Within the windless forest, a dozen experts from the 8 desolations surrounded Wang Xian. The elder who was floating in the air was an elder of the 8 desolations, a 9th order immortal god king realm expert. The strength of the 8 desolations used to be in the top 3 in the entire bedazzling starry sky. Now it was ranked 4th. The strength of the 8 desolations was much stronger than the imperial court and the witch union. Elder Lai, over 20 disciples have been killed. They are all dead. A middle-aged man landed beside the corpses of the disciples and said with a bitter expression, "It was difficult to kill a divine king realm expert, and they could escape in the face of danger. But they had all died here." This caused them to be extremely astonished. The 8 desolations elder stared at Wang Xian with a gloomy face, then at the surrounding corpses and the huge pit at the side. "Elder, our disciples might have gotten into a fight with them. However, this space should have been sealed off by a treasure or a formation," the elder said. "They only broke the array before they died." An old man glanced around and guessed. At the same time, he held a confinement circle in his hand. If the young man tried to escape, he would be trapped by the confinement circle. "You are the one who killed our disciples." The elder Lai stared at Wang Xian with murderous intent. The corpses below, the injuries on Wang Xian, and the huge pit at the side made them think that there had been a battle, and their disciples were killed. Wang Xian looked at the elder of the 8 desolations, and revealed a faint smile. "You are just courting death," he said in disdain. Boom. As soon as he finished his sentence, a terrifying murderous aura came. "Ha ha, good good. How dare you kill our disciples? I want to see who is the one courting death." The elder Lai roared with murderous intent. "What happened? Is it the wind jade?" "It should be. Otherwise, why would the people from the 8 desolations use the signal flare to ask for help?" At this time, voices came from not far away and figures flew over quickly. Such an eye-catching distress signal could be clearly seen by everyone within a radius of more than 1 billion kilometers. There was only one reason to use a signal flare in the windless forest, and that was to fight for the wind jade. Everyone who entered the windless forest came for Fengyu. Seeing this signal flare, some experts naturally came over to take a look. "Let's see if we can get a share." 7 or 8 people flew over and looked over, their eyes gleaming. Someone died. The disciples of 8 desolations have been killed. The group of people swept their gazes forward, and their pupils constricted as they whispered, "This is Ba Huang's business. Everyone get lost." Elder Lai shouted coldly when he saw someone flying in their direction. The death of a disciple of Ba Huang was a major event. When the 7 or 8 people heard the cold shout of the 8 desolation elder, they did not dare to anger him. They retreated a bit and looked on in surprise. Buzz! When Elder Lai saw them retreating, he waved his arm, and a confinement circle appeared in his hand. "Brat, I want to know what kind of background you have that allowed you to kill a disciple of Ba Huang." He stared coldly at Wang Xian and asked, "For killing a disciple of Ba Huang, not only did they want to eliminate this young man, but they also wanted the forces behind him to pay a heavy price. How could it be so easy to kill a disciple of a top force in the bedazzling star galaxy? As long as he dared to kill them, not only would the killer have to pay with his life, but the forces behind him would also pay the price." The reason why he did not attack Wang Xian immediately was because he wanted to know the forces behind him. "Oh, hee." Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and revealed a cold smirk in his eyes. "You're courting death. Even if you don't say it, Ba Huang can dig it out." Elder Lai growled in a deep voice and locked the confinement circle in his hand towards Wang Xian. Swish, swish, swish. "Elder Lai, what's going on?" The confinement circle attacked Wang Xian. Wang Xian stood there without moving, quietly watching the confinement circle lock him in place. At this time, more people flew over, but they were experts from Ba Huang. "Elder Zhou, someone killed our disciple." Elder Lai swept his gaze over and said, a group of more than 10 people was led by an elder from Ba Huang. The windless forest was a treasure land. During the windless days, Ba Huang would naturally send people over. In fact, they would send quite a number of people. They were only a part of the group. "What? Someone dared to kill our disciples?" The burly old man who flew over heard Elder Lai's words. His face was filled with killing intent as he scanned the surroundings. His gaze finally landed on Wang Xian. He killed our disciples. Killing him would be letting him off too easily. Capture him, and let him experience the pain of being suppressed by Ba Huang. Elder Zhou roared with a face full of rage. That's right. Let them know the consequences of killing our disciples. The surrounding experts from the 8 Desolations shouted coldly. That young man is in trouble. I wonder why he killed our disciples. But that young man doesn't look like an expert. There are 7th Order Immortal God King Realm experts among the dead. Look at his injuries. He must have fought with the disciples from Ba Huang for a long time. He might have a trump card. The 7 or 8 people who had arrived first looked ahead and discussed among themselves. Little junior sister, why are we here? Aya, we're just here to take a look. It's hard for us to get the wind jade anyway. Let's see what's going on here. Just as the 7 to 8 people were discussing, a voice came from behind. The 7 to 8 people who arrived first swept a glance over and ignored it. Ha! That's Wang Xian. It's him. What's going on? The group that arrived was Yalu Ying and her group. They had been searching for the wind jade for the past 2 days. It was a pity that after Wang Xian left, and with more and more people entering, they didn't have much to gain. Yalu Ying, who loved to join in the fun, wanted to come over. But she didn't expect the figure in front to be Wang Xian. 4th senior sister, who was the strongest among them, recognized him immediately. She looked around, and her expression changed slightly. Let's go over. The 4th senior sister hesitated for a moment, and her expression changed. Seeing that the 4 of them recognized the young man who was the enemy of Ba Huang, the 7 to 8 people who were watching from the side looked over in surprise. In front of them, the 2 Ba Huang elders squinted their eyes when they heard the commotion. Since he dared to kill the disciples of Ba Huang, the young man in front of them would not only pay the price, but also the forces he was in. Now his companions were here. The cultivators from Ba Huang all had cold looks in their eyes. Chapter 2852. 8 Desolation must kill him. 2-inch Wang Xian. 4th senior sister stared at Wang Xian, who was surrounded in the center, and shouted. At the same time, she took out a communication stone plate, pressed it, and put it away. She gritted her teeth and led the group of senior and junior sisters inside. She could understand the situation in front of her with a glance. However, her master had instructed her to ensure Wang Xian's safety. Now that she had met him, she couldn't just sit back and do nothing, even if the other party's strength wasn't something she could handle. When Wang Xian heard the voices behind him, he also sensed Yalu Ying and the other 3. However, he didn't expect them to be involved. Given the current situation, they would be the ones trapped if they were here. Of course, this was Wang Xian's point of view. To Wang Xian, the current situation could be resolved with a snap of his fingers. Wang Xian, are you alright? Why are there so many injuries on your body? Yalu Ying and the rest flew over and asked with concern when they saw the blood stains on Wang Xian and his pale complexion. I'm fine. Wang Xian shook his head plainly. Hee, I didn't expect you to have companions. Great, let's kill them all. The 8 Desolation disciples who surrounded Wang Xian didn't stop Yalu Ying and the rest from flying over. Instead, they looked on coldly. Since their companions were here, they would just have to pay the price together. Wang Xian, what happened? 4th senior sister asked Wang Xian with a change of expression when she heard the experts from 8 Desolation. It's nothing. The disciples from 8 Desolation saw that I was injured and wanted to snatch some things. So I killed them. Wang Xian smiled at them and answered casually. However, his words made 4th senior sister, Yalu Ying, and the rest pale. Killing disciples from 8 Desolation without a second thought? This was beyond imagination. Wang Xian, hold on for a while. Our master will be here soon. 4th senior sister gritted her teeth and whispered to Wang Xian. Wang. As soon as 4th senior sister finished her sentence, confinement circles flew towards them. Given their strength, they couldn't escape from the 8 Desolation elders. Confinement circles floated above their heads. This made their hearts sink. Capture them all. Since they dared to kill our disciples, we'll make them pay 100 times the price. Elder Zhou said coldly. Wait a minute. It was you guys from 8 Desolations who coveted Wang Xian's treasures first. That's why we struck. Fourth senior sister's expression changed, and she immediately shouted. No matter what the reason is, since you dared to kill our disciples, you must pay the price. Elder Lai said with a cold expression. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding disciples were ready to take action. We are disciples of the sanctuary. The fourth senior sister's face turned pale when she sensed the pressure around her. Hearing her words, Elder Lai and Elder Zhou's gazes froze slightly. Sacred region. Do you think that just because a disciple of the sacred region killed a disciple of our 8 Desolation, he can escape this calamity? Or could it be that we, the 8 Desolation, are afraid of the sacred region? Elder Zhou's face was cold as he glared at them. No, we just want to figure out who's right and who's wrong. Fourth senior sister immediately shook her head. The sanctuary was weaker than the 8 Desolations. She revealed her identity not to threaten the elders of the 8 Desolations, but to buy time. She had to wait for her master to come and deal with this matter. The only thing she could do was to buy time. No matter what, the name of the sacred region was still useful, and the elders of the 8 Desolations would not be as unscrupulous as before. They're disciples of the sacred region? A disciple of the sacred region killed a disciple of the 8 Desolations? This is not a small matter. If we're not careful, it could cause a conflict between the two forces. I didn't expect them to be disciples of the sacred region. Now they're fighting each other. The surrounding people were slightly shocked when they heard what they said, and their faces were filled with shock. Since it involved the sacred region, this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Just as they were talking, some people rushed over. When they saw the people in front of them, they whispered to each other. No matter how strong you are, you must die for killing a disciple of the 8 Desolations. Even the sacred region is useless. Elder Zhou roared with a face full of killing intent. Our master will be here soon, and he will give you an explanation. The fourth senior sister's expression changed slightly, and she shouted again. Master? The experts of the 8 Desolations squinted their eyes. Kill that brat first and capture the other 4. I'm curious to see how the sacred region will give us an explanation later. However, what the 4 senior sister and the rest did not expect was that the 8 Desolations elder did not give them any time, and gave the order directly. Shit. Wang Xian, be careful. The 4th senior sister, and the rest were shocked as they quickly warned Wang Xian. The name of the sacred region was useless to the other party. Damn, let's see who dares to touch Boss Wang. But all of a sudden, a rather arrogant voice came from outside. A silhouette flew over to them. Boss Wang, the newcomer, Invincible Combat. He was also attracted by the distress signal from the 8 Desolations. The windless forest was not huge. Invincible Combat loved this kind of commotion the most. Naturally, he was very interested in this matter, and rushed over immediately. However, when he arrived, Invincible Combat panicked when he saw Wang Xian. How dare someone from the 8 Desolations want to kill Boss Wang? Brother Invincible, don't get involved in this. At the back, several young men hurriedly spoke to Invincible Combat. Their expressions changed as they had a bad feeling about this. Tianxin's expression also changed as he looked at Invincible Combat. He wanted to reach out and stop him. This concerned the 8 Desolations, and it was not something they could get involved in, even if they had a strong background. What's this Invincible Combat for? Is he looking for trouble? If he really gets into trouble, even his master might not be able to settle it. Several middle-aged men behind Tianxin said with a sullen expression. Boss Wang. Invincible Combat ignored the shouts behind him, as he flew to Wang Xian's side and shouted again. Oh, what a coincidence. Wang Xian asked with a smile when he saw Invincible Combat. He was nonchalant as though the situation before him had nothing to do with him. Boss Wang, this is fate for us. Don't worry, Boss Wang. No one can bully you in the territory of my Invincible Combat. Invincible Combat smiled at Wang Xian as he spoke. Following which, he turned around and looked at the people from the 8 Desolations. He lifted his head slightly and said, "Why? My boss Invincible Combat isn't someone you can bully." Invincible Combat. The elders from the 8 Desolations frowned when they saw Invincible Combat suddenly intervening. Chapter 2853. Invincible Jean was the last disciple of the Upper Water God Emperor. At the same time, the Upper Water God Emperor was also a veteran God Emperor in 8 Wilderness. The Upper Water God Emperor wasn't an Emperor God of 8 Wilderness, but he was related to the 8 Wilderness God Emperors. But he was still the last disciple of an Emperor God. They frowned and stared at Wuxia coldly. They didn't expect a young man to attract the last disciple of the sacred region, an Upper Water God Emperor. Young Master Invincible Jean. No one can kill a disciple of our 8 Wilderness and leave safely. If we let him go, where will our dignity be? Young Master Invincible Jean, please don't make things difficult for us. If we have no choice, we will have to offend you. Elder Lai frowned and reminded Invincible Jean plainly. Currently, there were already hundreds of people gathered around. They were experts from the 8 Desolation 6 directions and the other regions. At this time, if they were to let go of someone who killed their disciple, they would really lose all their face. By then, others would say that they were cowards. After all, Invincible Jean only had an Emperor God backing him. The strength of the sacred region was weaker than them. Offend? I want to say the same thing to you. If you don't let it go, I will have to offend you. Invincible Jean looked cold. He waved his arm and water rings appeared in his hand. Each water ring contained a terrifying aura. This aura made everyone's heart palpitate. That's the divine weapon used by the Upper Water God Emperor in the past. It's the heavy water ring, the famous divine weapon of the Upper Water God Emperor, before he became an emperor. It's said that this divine weapon is extremely powerful and has its own intelligence. I didn't expect it to be in the hands of Invincible Jean. SSS. Such a treasure can allow Invincible Jean to fight beyond his level. He can even go against a pinnacle immortal king. When the heavy water ring appeared, everyone was slightly startled. Their faces were filled with astonishment. The faces of the experts from 8 Desolate also changed. Their expressions were slightly unsightly. Invincible Jean, are you trying to make an enemy out of 8 Wilderness? Have you considered the consequences? Elder Zhou stared at John Fa Woody with a murderous look on his face as he growled. The rest of the experts from 8 Wilderness were also looking coldly. I don't care who you are. If you dare to touch my boss, who is invincible in combat, you'll have to ask me first. Invincible Battle Law raised his head proudly. Brother Woody, we'd better not get involved in this matter. At the side, a few young men who followed Invincible shouted anxiously. At this moment, their foreheads were covered in cold sweat. The other party was an elder of Ba Huang, and that young man had killed a disciple of Ba Huang. This was no small matter. Once Invincible Battle Law was involved, and the 8 Desolates were really angered, even the Water God Emperor might not be able to do anything about it. At that time there would be a lot of trouble. Woody, you have to think about it carefully. When Heaven Heart saw this, his expression changed, and he wanted to fly towards him. Little junior sister, let's not get involved. This Invincible Battle Law is a troublemaker. Behind her, a middle-aged man immediately pulled Tian Xian's arm and shook his head at her. Miss, the other party is the 8 Desolations. If you really anger the 8 Desolations, even the Water God Emperor will have to pay a price. The other middle-aged man hurriedly said to Tianxin. This, Heaven Xian's face was filled with anxiety as he looked at John Fa Woody uneasily. It's all right. I'd like to see who dares to touch Boss Wang with me around. TSK. Jean Fa said to Tian Xian and the others. He snorted lightly and stared at the disciples of Ba Huang. Boss Wang, find a chance to escape. I'll help you. At the same time, Invincible Battle Law transmitted his voice to Wang Xian. Wang Xian looked at Invincible Battle Law before looking at Yelu Ying and the rest of his senior and junior sisters. He revealed a faint smile. Currently, he had the combat strength of an emperor god. However, he was severely injured after being attacked by the tree. Last time, he could recover from his previous injury in about a day, but now he would need at least a month. This was secondary. Now that he was severely injured, his combat strength was only around the 9th level God King realm. Of course, if he exerted his full strength, he could still maintain the offensive strength of an emperor for a period of time. But after exerting his full strength, his injuries would undoubtedly worsen. Therefore, to him, it was unnecessary. The Sky Array Orochi would arrive soon. All he had to do was wait here. Moreover, seeing some fleas jumping around in front of him was like watching monkeys. Invincible battle law was still the same as before. He was very loyal. In the past, when he was being hunted down, this lad had helped him several times. He would always remember this favor in his heart. The behavior of Yelu Ying and the rest of her senior and junior sisters surprised Wang Xian. Facing a force like Ba Huang, they actually dared to stand in front of him. Someone worth befriending. Just like what a rich second-generation heir on Earth had said. I don't care if others are rich when I make friends. Anyway, none of them are as rich as me. Wang Xian was the same now. I don't care if others are strong or weak when I make friends. Anyway, none of them are as strong as me. Of course, these words were a little arrogant. But in the entire starry sky, he was qualified to say so. Phew. Beside Wang Xian, Yelu Ying and the rest heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Invincible battle law. His appearance could greatly reduce the pressure on them. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Humph. There's no need to talk nonsense with him. He killed our disciples, and we don't care what faction he is from. Moreover, he killed our disciples. We will ask the sanctuary and the water god emperor if he wants to start a war. But suddenly at this moment, a dignified voice was heard. Hearing this voice, the cultivators from 8 Wilderness immediately showed respect on their faces. Guardians, Elder Zhou, Elder Lai, and the rest immediately shouted respectfully. Wang Wang Wang. At this time, another 3 figures rushed over. 3 old men. The old man in the middle held a horsetail whisk in his hand and had a cold look on his face. The other 2 also exuded a terrifying aura. 3 Divine King Pinnacle experts and 3 guardians of Ba Huang. His words made everyone's expression change. The arrival of the guardians of Ba Huang did not surprise the surrounding people, because there were guardians in the windless forest. When the signal flare was fired, the guardians of Ba Huang had enough time to rush over. But to everyone's surprise, the guardians of Ba Huang were so domineering. They wanted to kill that young man and questioned the water god emperor of the sanctuary if they wanted to start a war. As the guardians of Ba Huang, they were already at the top of Ba Huang. They were also qualified to say such words. In particular, the old man in the middle holding the horsetail whisk was the descendant of a god emperor of Ba Huang. Damn, Boss Wang, let's get ready to escape. Invincible battle law said anxiously when he saw the guardians of Ba Huang coming over. Chapter 2854. You can search for Invincible Divine Dragon Cultivation System on Baidu. Search for the latest chapter. The protector of Ba Huang had arrived and did not put Invincible in his eyes. Invincible knew that there might be trouble ahead. Escape. This was the only way. When Yelu Ying and the rest saw the protector of Ba Huang, their faces turned pale. Escape. In this 8 desolation 6 directions, you killed our disciples, and now you want to escape? The protector of Ba Huang with the horsetail whisk in his hand sneered when he heard Invincible's words. Invincible, don't cause trouble for your master, and don't think that your master can protect you if you make a mistake. Even your master, the Divine Emperor, can't protect you if you make an enemy out of Ba Huang. He stared coldly at Invincible Fighter and warned in a low voice. This has nothing to do with my master. It's all my own doing. Invincible raised his head and snorted coldly as he spoke. Hee. If it's your own fault for being invincible, then we'll kill you. The protector of Ba Huang stared at Invincible coldly and said coldly, in their opinion, without the water god emperor, provoking their 8 desolates alone was no different from courting death. Invincible, come over here. We won't be involved in this. Tianxin was anxious when he heard the protector of Ba Huang. He immediately said to Invincible, Heaven's will. How could someone as loyal as me, Invincible Fighter, do something so cowardly and cowardly? Let me teach you guys a lesson today. Invincible said coldly, Brother Invincible is too loyal. But I'm afraid we're in big trouble. Let's contact his senior brothers and get them to contact the Divine Emperor. Oh no, our brother Invincible is stubborn. Even 10 bulls can't pull him back. If Bahuang really wants to be ruthless, brother Invincible is doomed. The young men's faces were filled with anxiety as they spoke. This Invincible is really loyal. He would rather offend Bahuang to protect that young man. If Invincible really offends Bahuang, the protector of Bahuang might really kill him. Who's that young man? Why haven't I seen him before? I'm afraid he's not simple to be protected by Invincible, and a disciple of the sacred sect. Not simple? How could he be more powerful than Bahuang? But that young man's expression didn't change. In the surroundings, more and more people were attracted by the signal flare, and they were all discussing in low voices. Attack! We must kill that brat. Kill everyone who dares to help him. The protector with the horsetail whisk gave the order with a cold expression. Hearing this order, Invincible's expression changed slightly. Master is here, Master. You're finally here. However, at this moment, a surprised voice came from the side. Hearing this voice, everyone was slightly taken aback. Another one? A saint-level expert. Everyone quickly looked in the direction of Yelu Ying's gaze. Buzz! Right at this moment, a graceful and elegant woman dressed in green flew over to them. The woman didn't look young. She walked in the windless forest and came before Wang Xian in the next moment. The eyes of the 3 protectors froze when they saw the woman. Sanctuary Hong Fengyan. Hong Fengyan looked at Wang Xian, who was heavily injured, and took out an elixir pill for him. She turned around, looked at the 3 protectors and cupped her fists. Along the way, Yelu Ying and the rest had already told her the details through the communication stone plate. Why? The protectors of the sanctuary want to protect the person who killed our disciples? Or is he also a disciple of the sanctuary? Facing off at the same level, the protectors of the sanctuary took a few steps forward and fixed their eyes on Hong Fengyan. Although I'm a protector of the sanctuary, this has nothing to do with the sanctuary. Moreover, he isn't a disciple of the sanctuary. I wonder how you guys can resolve this feud. Hong Fengyan looked at them emotionlessly. With a wave of her arm, more than 100 pieces of wind jade flew towards them. Among the wind jade, there was a divine weapon, a pinnacle undying god king divine weapon. SSS, what a generous offer. Taking out such a valuable item in exchange for the young man's life. This seems like the young man is very important to the protector of the sanctuary. A pinnacle undying god king divine weapon. If the protectors of the sanctuary agree, they'll be making a killing. Some people around them were discussing in low voices. Even the eyes of the experts from Bahuang lit up, and their hearts were shaken. Wow, Boss Wang, who is this beautiful big sister? Invincible Battle Law was slightly surprised by Hong Fengyan's generosity and winked at Wang Xian. Wang Xian glanced at him and ignored him. He took out the communication stone plate and sent another message. They were a little slow. The lives of the disciples of 8 Desolation cannot be compared to some inanimate objects. If we accept it, won't we be able to kill the disciples of 8 Desolation as we please after taking some treasures? You really think our Bahuang is some small sect? We must kill him. No one can protect him. Attack! Let's see who dares to help him. The Octotera protector with the horsetail whisk stared at Hong Fengyan and ordered. Boom boom boom. The 8 Desolation disciples, who were already prepared, immediately unleashed their powerful auras. Boom! However, when their auras were released, Hong Fengyan's body also surged with a powerful aura. I must protect him today. The surrounding people seemed to have heard the howling of the wind. Hong Fengyan seemed to be standing in the center of the howling wind, as she stared coldly at everyone from 8 Desolation. Fine. If you want to protect him, then die. The 3 protectors of 8 Desolation revealed murderous intent in their eyes. The old man with the horsetail whisk in the middle moved and attacked Hong Fengyan. The other 2 protectors followed closely behind. Oh no, they're going to fight. Peak Divine King Realm Combat Power. Let's retreat. When the surrounding crowd saw this, their faces changed drastically as they roared loudly. Invincible, come over. Junior sister, let's retreat. Invincible Battle Law is courting death. Does he really think he can do whatever he wants just because he has an Emperor God Master? Junior sister, it's better if you don't come into contact with such reckless people in the future. Tianqin shouted at Invincible Battle Law. The two middle-aged men behind her immediately carried her and retreated. Fuck Boss Wang. Let's prepare to escape later. We're good at escaping. Invincible Battle Law's mouth twitched as he spoke to Wang Xian. Wang Xian stood there without moving or paying attention to Invincible Battle Law. Looking at Hong Fengyan, who was protecting him, his eyes flickered. Wang. When Hong Fengyan saw the three protectors of 8 Desolation charging at her, her expression didn't change at all. In the sky above her, a tornado formed. In the next moment, the tornado slowly solidified into a green gourd. Latest chapter of Invincible Dragon Cultivation System. Reading link of Invincible Dragon Cultivation System. /39,000 / download link of Invincible Dragon Cultivation System. /39,000 / reading link of Invincible Dragon Cultivation System. /39,000 / for convenience of reading next time. You can click on the Collections button below to record this time. We the 8 Desolation must kill him. For read the record. If you like Invincible Dragon Cultivation System. Chapter 2855. A green gourd floated in the air above Hong Fengyan. The green gourd looked like it was real. The patterns on it were clear and contained the Great Tao. At the front, the three protectors of Bahuang saw the green gourd above Hong Fengyan, but their expressions didn't change at all. They were all peak Immortal King experts, and they didn't take Hong Fengyan seriously at all. Virum. Just then, the gourd aimed at the three protectors of Bahuang and opened its lid. In the next moment, 3 sharp swords shot out at a terrifying speed. The speed was 10 times faster than the 3 elders of Bahuang. What? When the 3 elders of Bahuang saw the 3 sharp swords flying towards them, their faces changed. They hurriedly raised the weapons in their hands. However, as soon as they raised their weapons, their expressions stiffened. The 3 sharp swords had pierced through their arms. The faces of the 3 protectors of the Octotera wilderness stiffened, and their eyes were filled with shock. At the front, Hong Fengyan smiled faintly when she saw the scene. What? How is this possible? 1 against 3, and she injured the 3 protectors of Bahuang instantly. By the looks of it, the Sacred Region Protector did it on purpose. If she had hit their vital parts, the 3 protectors of Bahuang would have been severely injured. SSS, the Sacred Region Protector is so powerful. Isn't she a peak Immortal King expert? The surrounding experts, be it the experts of Bahuang or the surrounding experts, all looked at the scene in shock. Virum. Just then, above Hong Fengyan, the green gourd shone with a green luster, and a divine aura surrounded it. It accentuated Hong Fengyan's beauty. You. The protector of Bahuang with the horsetail whisk widened his eyes and stared at Hong Fengyan in disbelief. You're half a step into the Emperor God realm. After a few seconds, the protector of Bahuang with the horsetail whisk spat out a few words. Half a step into the Emperor God realm. This meant that she had already comprehended the mystique of an Emperor God. All she was lacking was the upgrade of her Eternity Kingdom. Upgrading the Eternity Kingdom to the Void Kingdom. This was also a threshold, and the upgrade required a large amount of treasures. For ordinary experts, they would need to find treasures to build their own divine kingdom. But for a sanctuary powerhouse, if a sanctuary discovered that a protector had reached such a realm, they would open their treasure vault and build a void divine kingdom for him. It would only take a very, very short time. In other words, Hong Fengyan had already taken half a step into the Goddarch realm. The other half step was very easy for him. She, who had already taken half a step into the God King realm, was far from what a peak stage God King could compare with. I'll take him away. If you want to look for him in the future, you can look for me, Hong Fengyan. Hong Fengyan looked at them and said plainly, Our master is about to advance to God Emperor realm. Great, this is great. Behind Hong Fengyan, Yelu Ying and her junior brother were extremely excited when they saw this. Now that their masters had advanced into the God Emperor stage, their statuses would rise as well. After all, there were dozens of sanctuary protectors, but only a few God Emperors. as the disciple of the God Emperor, who would dare to provoke him in the sanctuary. Awesome, Brother Wang Xian. I didn't expect you to have such a powerful backer. Ha ha ha. Upon seeing Hong Fengyan displaying her prowess, Invincible Zhan was equally excited as he laughed heartily at Wang Xian. Wang Xian stood at the side and smiled plainly. It seemed like her comprehension was pretty good. She had taken this step in such a short time. Cough cough. The three protectors of 8 Desolation and the group of disciples looked extremely embarrassed. There was no way they could keep a quasi-god emperor. Once she really advanced into the god emperor stage in the future, it would be worth it for 8 Desolation to find trouble with her. In particular, once she returned to the sanctuary would at most compensate them with some treasures and let the matter rest. Let's go. Hong Fengyan swept her gaze across the group before turning to Wang Xian and the rest. A surge of energy enveloped all of them, and they flew out of the windless forest. If you bring the enemy who killed our disciples away, you will be the enemy of 8 Desolation. Think about the price you will have to pay. The 3 protectors of 8 Desolation and the group of disciples looked embarrassed as they bellowed. All they could do was watch and make some superficial threats. They couldn't beat her. Hong Fengyan didn't bother about them. As long as they left, the matter would be settled easily. The experts of 8 Desolation understood, and so did she. Rumble. Before Hong Fengyan led Wang Xian and the group out of the area, a terrifying aura came pressing down on them. A majestic aura, a green-colored figure, and a stern-looking old man looked around. When he saw the figure flying out from the depths of the windless forest, he immediately chased after it. However, he was attacked by the trees of the windless forest, and his speed was greatly reduced. He only arrived here now. However, he had already lost his target after such a long time. This caused his expression to turn extremely ugly. Lord Feng, stop them. Stop them. The 3 protectors of 8 Desolation's eyes lit up when they saw an emperor god. They shouted immediately. This majestic figure was the emperor god of 8 Desolation. What a coincidence. Oh no. Pretty sister, run. It's the emperor god of 8 Desolation. Invincible warrior's eyebrows twitched violently when he saw the figure. He shouted loudly. Huh. Hong Fengyan's expression changed drastically. The gourd above her head dispersed and a terrifying energy covered her body. She was prepared to fly at full speed. Huh. The emperor god of 8 Desolation, who was called for help, was taken aback when he heard the voice from below. He immediately looked towards where Wang Xian and the group were. In the next moment, his eyes lit up as he stared deadly at Wang Xian. This figure was the one that flew out from the depths of the windless forest. This time, there wasn't a single Fengyu in the windless forest. It was very strange. Perhaps the secret was with this person. Rumble. The next moment, he didn't hesitate and cast a wind wall to block the surroundings. As an experienced emperor god, it only took him a moment to cast the wind wall. Rumble. Hong Fengyan's expression changed drastically when she saw this. She condensed the law of wind into a wind drill and attacked the wind wall. Caw. In an instant, a hole appeared in the wind wall. When the emperor god of 8 Desolation saw that his defense was broken, his expression changed. Universal wind prison. He let out a low roar with embarrassment. The wind changed drastically and a cage appeared, sealing off a radius of 1,000 kilometers around them. Hong Fengyan's pupil shrank slightly when she saw this scene. Her expression slowly turned ugly. Lord Feng, one of them killed a disciple of 8 Desolation. Seeing that they were sealed by the wind prison, the 3 protectors of 8 Desolation were excited and shouted immediately. The error-free chapters of Invincible Divine Dragon Cultivation System will continue to be updated on Mobile Play Bar. There will be no advertisements on the website. Please collect and recommend Mobile Play Bar. Please collect if you like Invincible Divine Dragon Cultivation System. Invincible Divine Dragon Cultivation System Mobile Play Bar updates the fastest. Chapter 2856. Shit. We're doomed. How did we encounter an emperor god from 8 Wilderness? Damn it. When he saw the wind prison surrounding them, Invincible's face revealed an anxious expression. They were 8 Wilderness celestial emperors. Once they were caught, no one could save Wang Xian. Even his master couldn't save them. Shit. Yelu Ying and the other disciples' faces turned pale as they looked around anxiously. Sir God Emperor, can we make a deal? I can owe you a favor. Hong Fengyan clenched her fist as she spoke to the Emperor God from 8 Wilderness. Oh, the Emperor God from 8 Wilderness looked at Hong Fengyan with surprise. He looked to the side and raised his eyebrows when he saw the corpse. Recalling what the 8 Wilderness disciples had said, he squinted his eyes. Who killed them? He asked coldly. Lord Feng, it's that young man. He's the one who killed our disciples. The disciple of Upper Water God Emperor is Invincible Warrior, and the Protector of Sanctuary wants to protect him. The Protector of Sanctuary is already a half-step God Emperor. The 8 Wilderness Protector with the horsetail whisk immediately reported to him. Emperor God Wind Destruction is here. I didn't expect an Emperor God from 8 Wilderness to arrive at this time. They can forget about escaping now. That young man is probably going to be killed. Not necessarily. The Protector of Sanctuary is willing to owe a favor to that young man. The Protector of Sanctuary is about to become an Emperor God. A favor from an Emperor God is worth a lot. I wonder how Emperor God Wind Destruction will handle this. As the 8 Wilderness Protector reported, the surrounding crowd discussed in astonishment. This matter was full of twists and turns. It involved the last disciple of Upper Water God Emperor, Invincible Warrior, the Protector of Sacred Feather, an existence that was one step away from becoming an Emperor God. But now that Emperor God Wind Destruction was here, things would probably come to an end. It's definitely him. Emperor God Wind Destruction squinted his eyes and fixed his gaze on Wang Xian. He was certain that this was the figure that flew out from the depths of Windless Forest Valley. However, he was surprised that this young man looked a little weak. Sir Emperor God Wind Destruction, could you let Boss Wang off for my master's sake? Don't worry. I will definitely ask my master to compensate with treasures. Invincible looked at Wind Destruction God Emperor and said respectfully. Against a God Emperor, he didn't dare to be arrogant. Well, no matter what, you have to pay the price for killing our disciples. We don't need the future God Emperor's favor. Nor do we need the Water God Emperor's treasure. Hand him over now. If you try to protect him, I don't care if you're the protectors of the sanctuary or the disciples of the God Emperor. I'll kill you directly. Emperor God Tian Xie swept a glance across Hong Fengyan, Jean Fa Unrivaled, and the rest before fixing his eyes on Wang Xian. If it was any other time, he might hesitate when faced with this condition. However, he had chased all the way from the depths of the Windless Forest Valley just for this figure. How could he possibly let him go? Even if he didn't kill the 8 Desolation disciple, he would still capture him. Damn it! Hearing Emperor God Wind Destruction's words, Invincible Warrior couldn't help but curse. His expression was extremely ugly. Hong Fengyan's expression changed slightly. I'll hold them back later. You escape first. I've already broken the confinement circle for you. She transmitted her voice to Wang Xian. Now, she couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If she had known earlier, she would have asked Wang Xian to return to her own holy kingdom. This wouldn't have happened. She was too careless. She thought she could bring him away with her current strength. She had not expected an God Emperor to appear suddenly. Hearing her transmission, Wang Xian couldn't help but chuckle. He took a few steps forward, looked across everyone in the 8 Desolation, and fixed his eyes on Emperor God Wind Destruction. You, Hong Fengyan, who was beside him, was taken aback. She reached out and wanted to pull him back. However, before she could react, she failed to stop him. This stunned her. I'm injured. I didn't want to make a move. Wang Xian stared at Emperor God Wind Destruction and said plainly. It was true that he didn't want to make a move. With his current injuries, he would need a month to recover completely. If he continued to fight, he might have to recuperate for a year. A year was a long time for him. Therefore, he had been watching without saying a word. If he could leave today, he would make another trip to the 8 Desolation after the Celestial Array 8 branches, and the rest arrived. Now it seemed like he had to make a move if the Celestial Array 8 branches, and the rest didn't come. However, if he were to make a move, it wouldn't be that easy. However, He could see greed in Emperor God Wind Destruction's eyes. He could tell that Emperor God Wind Destruction was determined to get him. This piqued his curiosity. He didn't seem to know this guy. Huh? What's up with that young man? Why is he so calm? He doesn't want to make a move when he's injured. Is there something wrong with his brain? Is he talking to Emperor God Wind Destruction? The injuries on him seemed to be from the battle with the disciples of the Eight Desolation. Did he injure his brain? The surrounding crowd looked at Wang Xian, who was walking forward. They were taken aback and started discussing. Emperor God Wind Destruction was also taken aback, as he stared at Wang Xian in confusion. Anyone who kills the disciples of the Eight Desolation is the enemy of the Eight Desolation. If you guys stand there, I'll kill you too. Emperor God Wind Destruction sensed Wang Xian's aura. He looked at Hong Fengyan and John Fa Wudi as he spoke. Hong Fengyan, who was about to become an emperor god, was the last disciple of the water god emperor. However, that was all. If the other party didn't show any mercy, he would kill him today. What could the other party do to him? An unconcealed killing intent spread to the surroundings. Sensing the killing intent, Hong Fengyan, Jean Fa Wudi, and the rest turned pale. Big Brother Wudi, come over quickly. Come over, Big Brother Wudi. Everyone around could clearly sense the killing intent of Emperor God Wind Destruction. The two young men behind Tianxin shouted at Jean Fa Wudi anxiously. Wudi, don't force yourself. Tianxin shouted at Jean Fa Wudi with a worried look. Fuck. Am I, Jean Fa Wudi, the kind of person who is afraid of death? Jean Fa Wudi looked at Tianxin and the rest with bloodshot eyes as he lifted his head and spoke. His words made Tianxin and the rest turn pale. Wang Xian, get ready. Hong Fengyan also wanted him to escape later. However, before she could finish her sentence, Wang Xian stopped her with a wave of his hand. I would like to witness the strength of an Eight Desolation God Emperor. At the same time, let me tell you guys. You guys are in trouble. Wang Xian's gaze fell upon Emperor God Wind Destruction with cold eyes. Emperor God Wind Destruction frowned when he saw Wang Xian staring at him fearlessly. Recalling that he flew out from the depths of the windless forest valley, he felt uncertain. In that case, show me what you're capable of. Emperor God Wind Destruction was shocked as he spoke coldly. He didn't dare to attack recklessly. Chapter 2857. Resplendent Starry Sky, Dragon King of Dragon Palace 3-inch. Huh? That young man isn't afraid of Emperor Fengyan at all. Does he have a trump card? Emperor Fengyan seems to be wary of that young man. What's going on? Didn't that young man get severely injured after fighting with the disciples of Eight Barons? What's wrong with Emperor Fengyan now? When the surrounding crowd saw Wang Xian standing there casually, and seeing the vigilant look on Emperor God Wind Destruction's face, they were slightly shocked and started discussing softly. Behind Wang Xian, Hong Fengyan frowned as she looked at Wang Xian's back. Her eyes were filled with uncertainty. To her, Wang Xian was mysterious, extremely mysterious. But she had tested his strength before. He was weaker than the Sixth Order Undying God King when they first met. Now that he was so calm when facing Emperor Fengyan, could he have a trump card? Around them, everyone watched in bewilderment. Boss Wang, let's run. Seeing this, Invincible muttered under his breath. Wang Xian stared at Emperor Fengyan with a cold look in his eyes. Wang. But at this moment, Wang Xian felt the communication stone plate in the mother nest vibrate. There was a message from the heaven array. Dragon King, we have sensed your location. 75 seconds. We will be there in 75 seconds. Wang Xian squinted his eyes when he saw the message. The aura around him disappeared. A smile appeared on his face as he stood there calmly. Huh. Seeing the smile on Wang Xian's face, everyone was taken aback. How could he still smile at this moment? Even Emperor God Wind Destruction felt a chill in his heart and revealed a vigilant look. The atmosphere was silent for 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, Wang Xian was still standing there. His smile was gone and he closed his eyes, waiting for the time to come. 10 seconds was a long time for everyone around them. Didn't he want to witness Emperor Fengyan's strength? What's going on? Why is he standing there? Is he preparing for a big move? The surrounding crowd looked at the way he closed his eyes, and a curious look appeared on their faces. It had been 10 seconds, and he was still standing there. Discussions could be heard. Emperor God Wind Destruction, who was at the front, frowned and raised his guard. But another 10 seconds passed, and Wang Xian was still standing there with his eyes closed. What is this guy doing? He was heavily injured when fighting against us, the disciples of 8 Desolation. And now he still wants to fight against us? You must be pretending. 20 seconds have passed. What kind of tricks is this guy playing? Another 10 seconds passed. The group of experts and disciples from 8 Desolates was getting restless. They looked at Wang Xian, who had his eyes closed coldly. What was this guy doing? Time ticked by. Fuck, is this guy showing off? Why are you standing there without moving? That's highly possible. I think he's just acting cool. It's been half a minute, and he's closing his eyes while facing God Emperor Wind Destruction. Acting cool? I think he's trying to stall for time. He wants to see the power of the 8 Desolation God Emperor? What does he have to know? Another 10 seconds later, there was a commotion in the surroundings. He said that he wanted to experience God Emperor Wind Destruction's strength. Half a minute had passed, but he was still sitting there with his eyes closed. This is too pretentious. It's even worse than Invincible combat technique. The group of middle-aged men behind Tianxin looked at Wang Xian blankly and couldn't help but complain. They really thought that this young man would burst out a powerful attack. They didn't expect him to be showing off. God Emperor Wind Destruction stood there with impatience in his eyes. He stared at Wang Xian with murderous intent in his eyes. Just now, he had seen this young man being sent flying out from the depths of Windless Forest Valley. He thought he had a powerful trump card. However, he was still sitting there with his eyes closed. What was the meaning of this? Was he playing with him? God Emperor Wind Destruction stared coldly at Wang Xian. 10 seconds passed in the blink of an eye. Is he playing with us? The burly elder Zhou couldn't help but roar coldly. All eyes were on Wang Xian in the surroundings. At this moment, everyone felt like they were being teased. 40 seconds had passed. If he delayed it for another minute, it would be 1 minute. He was just acting cool with his eyes closed. Is this guy trying to live for a few more seconds? I think so. Is he playing this trick? There isn't any energy fluctuation from him. Is he trying to delay his death? The earlier he dies, the earlier he can reincarnate. What's the use of acting cool here? What a joke. The surrounding people couldn't help but comment as their eyes were filled with ridicule. Lord Wind. Behind God Emperor Wind Destruction, the 8 Desolation Protector with the Horsetail Whisk shouted as he stared at Wang Xian. 10 seconds. If you don't leave in 10 seconds, don't blame me for not showing respect to the Shangshui Divine Emperor and the Sanctuary. God Emperor Wind Destruction's patience had run out. He stared at Zhang Fa Wudi, Hong Fengyan, and gave his final warning. While they were discussing and talking, more than 10 seconds had passed. Now it was close to 60 seconds. Zhang Fa Wudi, hurry up and come over. Brother Wudi, hurry up and come over. Otherwise, God Emperor Wind Destruction will really take action. Upon hearing God Emperor Wind Destruction's final warning, Tianxin and the rest shouted at him anxiously. Master! Yalu Ying and the rest clenched their fists as they shouted at Hong Fengyan with pale faces. Hong Fengyan stared at Wang Xian with a slight frown. She stood there without saying a word. Cough cough, Boss Wang, do we have any ideas? If we can't, we'll just run. I have a life-saving treasure that my master gave me. Seeing the situation, Zhang Fa Wudi was also anxious as he transmitted his voice to Wang Xian. He had a life-saving treasure with him, but the chances of him escaping from an emperor god were still slim. 68 seconds. Wang Xian didn't reply to Zhang Fa Wudi. Instead, he uttered 4 words plainly. You guys are really loyal. But that's fine too. Even though we weren't born in the same year and month, we can still die in the same year and month. 10 seconds had passed. God Emperor Wind Destruction swept his gaze across Zhang Fa Wudi, Hong Fengyan and the rest. Waves of terrifying aura erupted from his body. Wudi, hurry up and leave. Tianxin, who was at the side, shouted in shock. Bluff. Humph. God Emperor Wind Destruction said coldly. I've been putting on an act for more than a minute. It's worth it if I can delay my death by a minute. Behind him, the three guardians of 8 Desolation commented coldly. At this moment, close to 10,000 people had gathered around them. All of them were looking at Wang Xian with contempt. Initially, they weren't disgusted by this young man. However, when he stood there with his eyes closed and put on an act for more than a minute, the surrounding crowd started to look down on him. Others would at least struggle on their deathbed. But you're just stalling for time? Since you guys aren't leaving, I'll kill you guys first. God Emperor Wind Destruction waved his arm. Wind swords appeared from the wind prison that imprisoned Wang Xian and the rest. 73 seconds. Seeing the appearance of the wind swords, Wang Xian sensed the familiar aura and revealed a smile. Chapter 2858. Resplendent Starry Sky, Dragon King of Dragon Palace 4-inch die. Chilling murderous intent emanated from Emperor God Wind Destruction. He stared coldly at Wang Xian and the group. With a swing of his arm, countless sharp swords flew towards Invincible Zhan, Hong Fengyan, and the rest. Feng Jian did not attack Wang Xian because he wanted to capture him alive. He wanted to know the secrets in the depths of the windless forest valley. Arg! Nearby, Heaven's Heart covered his eyes with a pale face and exclaimed, "Master!" Yalu Ing and the rest paled at the sight of the despairing attack. They had no way of defending themselves against such an attack. Hong Fengyan's eyes were extremely solemn. "You're asking for it." Boom! Just as the wind swords were about to land on their bodies, just as Hong Fengyan was putting up a series of defenses, a furious voice rang out in the sky. From the right, he took out the Void God Emperor rank First Rank God pill and placed it in his mouth, turning it into dragon chi to heal his injuries. Hee, this time's harvest is pretty good. By the side, Emosha smiled. His eyes slowly swept across his surroundings as a murderous aura flickered in his eyes. Looks like someone wants to die. As he spoke, his eyes locked onto God Emperor Wind Destruction. Orochi's gaze swept across all the experts and disciples in the 8 Desolations before landing on God Emperor Wind Destruction. Waves of undisguised murderous intent rushed towards them. Cough cough. Sensing the cold murderous intent from Orochi and Emosha, God Emperor Wind Destruction's eyes narrowed. He coughed and his eyes were filled with shock. Dragon Palace? Dragon King? His gaze fell on Wang Xian as he asked with a complicated expression. There are other Dragon Kings of Dragon Palace in this resplendent starry sky? Wang Xian looked at God Emperor Wind Destruction and said calmly, "Dragon King of Dragon Palace?" Upon hearing these words, Battle Unrivaled was slightly confused. What's wrong with the Dragon King of Dragon Palace? He had long known that Wang Xian was the Dragon King of Dragon Palace. However, as he had just ended his seclusion for half a year, he had no idea what the Dragon King of Dragon Palace represented in this resplendent starry sky. That was the Dragon Palace, which was now known as the third superpower. And the Dragon King was the leader of Dragon Palace. What kind of superpower is Dragon Palace? Not only him, but the surrounding people also did not have a deep impression of it. The two regions were isolated, and there was no communication between them. Other than experts from some superpowers, many people did not know about the Dragon King of Dragon Palace. Especially people like Tianxin, Dragon King of Dragon Palace. I did not expect him to be the Dragon King of Dragon Palace. How is this possible? Doesn't the Dragon King of Dragon Palace have the strength of an emperor god? Dragon Palace is one of the top 3 superpowers in the resplendent starry sky. How can he be so young? SSS. He defeated the Dragon Palace that joined forces with the Imperial Court and the Witch Guild? The Dragon Palace that controls the Imperial Star region? The Dragon King of Dragon Palace and the rest are here. And it's this young man. No wonder. No wonder he is so calm, and didn't even bat an eyelid in the face of God Emperor Wind Destruction. He is the Dragon King of Dragon Palace. The Dragon King of Dragon Palace. Even though he was severely injured, he did not take God Emperor Wind Destruction seriously. However, at this moment exclamations of shock were heard from the surrounding. Their bodies trembled and their eyes widened. Some people did not know about the Dragon King of Dragon Palace, but many did. It was especially so after the rise of Dragon Palace 5 years ago. Everyone who got the news was shocked. In that battle, Dragon Palace fought 1 against 2 and did not lose. They pursued the other party for billions of miles. After that battle, 8 Desolation, which was ranked 3rd, was now ranked 4th. The leader of such a superpower was the young man in front. The young man who had been ridiculed by some people and thought was about to be eliminated. The young man who was said to be pretentious. Now, they couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. This, what the fuck? When Invincible Warrior heard the exclamations around him, he couldn't help but jump up and stare at Wang Xian in front of him. Yelu Ying and the rest of her senior and junior sisters were also dumbfounded. The Dragon King of Dragon Palace was even more respected than the territorial lord of their sanctuary region. It was no exaggeration to say that Dragon Palace could annihilate their sanctuary region. However, the Dragon King of Dragon Palace was right before their eyes. They had even played with him for a few months. At this moment, even Hong Fengyan widened her eyes. As for Tianqin and the rest, they were even more stunned. Dragon King of Dragon Palace. At the back, the guardian elders and disciples of 8 Desolation were shocked and cold sweat appeared on their foreheads. They were going to deal with the Dragon King of Dragon Palace. Dragon King of Dragon Palace. There must be some misunderstanding between us. On behalf of 8 Desolation and the disciples, I apologize to you. God Emperor Wind Destruction's expression changed. He cupped his fists at Wang Xian and squeezed out a smile. As an 8 Desolation God Emperor, he naturally had some understanding of the strength of Dragon Palace. Overall, Dragon Palace should be stronger than them. He knew that 8 Desolation was in the wrong. Next, he might have to pay a price to make amends. Wang. However, the sky changed all of a sudden. Chapter 2859. Resplendent Starry Sky. Dragon King of Dragon Palace 5 Wang. What's going on? Why is the sky changing? SSS, what is this? A world of 9 colors? Just as Emperor Wind Destruction finished his sentence, the entire region underwent a huge change. The surrounding trees and windless forests quietened down as the 9-colored radiance shrouded the space. The trees stopped attacking even if one tried to take action. An independent world seemed to have formed. The 9 types of light enveloped this world, making it look very gentle and not frightening at all. Dragon King. At this time, another figure flew over. Heaven Formation. The changes in this space were also set up by Heaven Formation. He came with Baki Devilish Shah, but he did not show himself. Instead, he set up this formation. This formation only had one purpose: to seal the evolved version of Black Hole Disruption. Once one entered this space, unless one was a second-order immortal king, one could forget about leaving or returning to one's holy kingdom. Another God Emperor from Dragon Palace. The changes in the surrounding space and the appearance of Heaven Formation shocked everyone once again as they turned to him. Just from the aura he exuded, they knew that he was another God Emperor. Seeing the arrival of Heaven Formation and sensing the changes in the surroundings, Emperor Wind Destruction narrowed his eyes as he had a bad premonition. Dragon King, are you alright? Heaven Formation flew over and asked Wang Xian with concern. I'm fine. I suffered some injuries in Windless Forest Valley. Wang Xian shook his head. Injuries in Windless Forest Valley? No wonder this Dragon King did not make a move. Everyone understood what was going on after hearing Wang Xian's words. It's great that you're fine. As Tianjin spoke, his eyes turned to the front and landed on Emperor God Destruction. Feng Mia, I really don't know who gave you the courage to kill our Dragon King. Is it that old man Huang? Heaven Formation stared at Emperor Wind Destruction and said coldly. You. Hearing Heaven Formation calling him by his name, Old Man Huang, Emperor Wind Destruction's expression changed. He stared at Heaven Formation with radiance flickering in his eyes. Gradually his expression turned ugly. You're Heaven Formation God Emperor. As expected, you're not dead, he said with fear in his eyes. Sky Array God Emperor. Behind him, the 3 enforcers, the 2 elders, and the disciples of the 8 Desolation sect were shocked when they heard the name. Sky Array God Emperor. This was a name everyone in the 8 Desolates knew of. This was a humiliation that lasted for tens of millions of years. Back then, Sky Array God Emperor alone fought against more than 10 God Emperors from the entire 8 Desolations, and was not at a disadvantage. That battle made Sky Array God Emperor famous. He was known as sweeping across the 8 Desolates and 6 directions. As for the 8 Desolates, they would naturally be his stepping stone to fame. When the surrounding people heard the name Sky Array God Emperor, their expressions changed. It was like thunder piercing the ears. He once fought against the entire 8 wastelands alone. He was incomparably powerful. Hasn't the enmity between you and the 8 Desolations already been resolved? Wind Destruction God Emperor looked at 8 Limitless, and said with an embarrassed look, "The grudges from thousands of years ago have long been settled. But is it so easy to settle the matter of offending our Dragon King?" Sky Array God Emperor said. His first sentence was relatively calm, but when he said his second sentence, his body surged with intense killing intent. "This is indeed the fault of the 8 wastelands. We are willing to pay the price." Feeling the killing intent from Sky Array, Wind Destruction God Emperor's expression changed slightly as he spoke immediately. Price? The price is death." 8 Limitless stared at Wind Destruction God Emperor and roared with chilling eyes. As he finished his sentence, he attacked Wind Destruction God Emperor directly. Devil Fiend, who was by the side, did not hesitate and charged over. What? 8 Limitless Devil Fiend's sudden attack caused Wind Destruction God Emperor's expression to change drastically. The sudden eruption of a battle between God Emperors, shocked the surrounding people as they hurriedly retreated. A few timid people, and those who mocked Wang Xian, just now had their eyes glistening. Their bodies trembled slightly and started to turn illusory. However, just as they were about to teleport away, rays of 9-colored light suddenly landed on their bodies, causing their bodies to solidify. "Oh no, we are trapped in this space. We can't return to our holy kingdom directly." A panicked voice was heard from a middle-aged man. His words shocked the surrounding people. "Sky Array, you have yet to recover to your peak. Dragon King of Dragon Palace. Do you really think that the 8 wastelands are afraid of you?" Seeing 8 Limitless Devil Fiend attacking him, Wind Destruction God Emperor's face contorted as he bellowed furiously. Even if the Dragon Palace was stronger than them, were they that easy to bully? Wind Destruction God Emperor waved his arm, and a huge fan appeared in his hand. As he waved both his hands, a terrifying storm went towards 8 Limitless Devil Fiend. Pfft. However, just as he waved his attack, a black and white figure appeared behind him. The black and white figure, and a sickle-like claw had already landed on his neck. Another sharp claw pierced through his body. What? Wind Destruction God Emperor widened his eyes in horror. His forehead was instantly filled with cold sweat. He could feel his vitality disappearing rapidly. What? Dragon Palace still has another God Emperor. Emperor Wind Destruction was assassinated. Everyone in the surroundings quickly recovered from the panicked middle-aged man's shouts and looked up into the sky. Behind Wind Destruction God Emperor, another God Emperor appeared. His sharp attack had severely injured him. Wang, the figure that appeared behind Wind Destruction God Emperor, was none other than Roving Demon. Roving Demon had succeeded in his attack and vanished before Wind Destruction God Emperor could react. In the next moment, he appeared before Wang Xian. "Dragon King," Roving Demon respectfully called out. Cough cough, cough cough. In the void ahead, Wind Destruction God Emperor held his neck and chest as he coughed. Fresh blood gushed out from his mouth. His face was pale, and his eyes were filled with horror as he stared at Roving Demon beside Wang Xian. 8 Limitless Devil Fiend and 8 Limitless Devil Fiend saw that Roving Demon had succeeded and did not continue their attacks. Roving Demon's attack had severely injured Wind Destruction God Emperor. The forces of darkness and light were stirring in his body. If they wanted to kill him, all they had to do was to strike casually. Lord Wind! Oh no, Lord Wind! When the 3 protectors, 2 elders and the disciples of Ba Huang saw this, their hearts thumped violently. Their faces were as pale as a sheet as they cried out. The 3 protectors immediately flew over while trembling. "If you want to kill me, this is the price you have to pay. The price of your life." Wang Xian looked at Wind Destruction God Emperor and said plainly, You. Wind Destruction God Emperor swallowed the elixir pills in big mouthfuls, as he pointed at Wang Xian. If 8 Desolation wants to start a war, Dragon Palace will accept it. At this time, Wang Xian interrupted him and continued. Chapter 2860, Resplendent Starry Sky. Dragon King of Dragon Palace 6-inch. If 8 Desolation wants to start a war, Dragon Palace will accept it. When everyone heard this sentence, their bodies trembled. Especially the experts and disciples from 8 Desolation. They swallowed their saliva, and their eyes were filled with shock and fear. Not long ago, the protector with the horsetail whisk had proudly said that the 8 Desolates must kill him. He had asked them if the Upper Water God Emperor and the Sanctuary wanted to start a war with the 8 Desolates. Now the Dragon King had returned the same words back to him. If 8 Desolation wants to start a war, Dragon Palace will accept it. These were the words of the leader of Dragon Palace. His words represented the entire Dragon Palace. And now, the Dragon King wanted to kill Emperor God Emperor Wind Destruction. If 8 Desolation wanted to avenge him, Dragon Palace would accept it. When Emperor God Emperor Wind Destruction heard Wang Xian, his body trembled violently, and his eyes were filled with fear. He was panicking. When he was severely injured, his greatest reliance was 8 Desolation. Relying on the might of 8 Desolation, Dragon King and the rest were fearful. But now Dragon King wanted him dead. And he had heard the middle-aged man's exclamation. This space had been sealed. He knew Sky Array God Emperor well. He had participated in the war thousands of years ago. He knew that Sky Array God Emperor could seal a space. Even God Emperors couldn't return to their own God nation instantly. Clearly this space was sealed too. In other words, he had no way out. Dragon King wants to kill Emperor God Emperor Wind Destruction. When everyone saw this scene, their minds were in a daze, and they stared at it blankly. Who would have thought that this would happen? Who would have thought that this young man was Dragon King? Gulp. The 3 protectors of 8 Desolation, and the group of elders and disciples broke out in cold sweat. If they wanted to kill Emperor God Emperor Wind Destruction, what about them? Dragon King, if you dare to kill me, 8 Desolation will not let Dragon Palace off. You and Imperial Court Witchcraft Assembly are mortal enemies. Now that you have offended 8 Desolation, aren't you afraid that we will join forces? Emperor God Emperor Wind Destruction stared at Wang Xian with bloodshot eyes. His expression changed as he growled. That's not something a dead man like you can worry about. If you want to fight, we'll accept, said Wang Xian plainly. He turned to the Orochi and ordered, kill him. Kill. These 2 words decided the fate of Emperor God Emperor Wind Destruction. It's the Dragon King. TSK. You want to kill our Dragon King? You're courting death. 8 Chi Demon Fiend and 8 Chi Demon Fiend locked onto Emperor God Wind Destruction, with eyes filled with murderous intent. Boom. At the next moment, they moved and charged at Emperor God Destruction. No. Wind Destruction God Emperor's face was drenched in cold sweat as he roared. He looked around and wanted to escape. Boom. However, at this time, Orochi and Masha had already sealed off all his escape routes. The terrifying power of darkness had completely engulfed him. No. Feeling the encirclement of death, Wind Destruction God Emperor let out a final roar with a crumbling expression. Bam! The attack engulfed him, and he, who was already heavily injured, instantly lost all signs of life. 8 Desolations, Wind Destruction God Emperor had fallen. Seeing that Emperor God Emperor Wind Destruction was killed, the surrounding people trembled. No. We the 8 Baron will not let you off. We the 8 Baron will not let you off. Seeing that Emperor God Emperor Wind Destruction had lost all signs of life, the 3 elders from the 8 Baron shouted in panic and despair. Their figures moved, and they frantically fled outside. There were also some disciples who were trembling and wanted to escape back to their own holy kingdoms. TSK. A bunch of idiots who are courting death. Masha waved his arm, and the dark skeletons attacked them one by one. Arg. Screams were heard as the experts and disciples from the 8 Baron were killed rapidly. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people felt their scalps go numb. Kill them all. An Emperor God and all the other disciples from the 8th Baron were killed by the Emperor God of Dragon Palace. It was so straightforward. There are still a few small fries who are courting death. At this time Tianjun, who was standing beside Wang Xian, saw an image. The images showed what had happened in this place before they arrived. This is... Invincible's eyes widened as he leaned over to take a look. Hong Fengyan also looked over and recognized that this was the means of a powerful array master. There are still small fries? Orochi flew over and looked at the image with a cold gaze. When the surrounding people heard what Tianjun and Orochi said, their foreheads broke out in cold sweat. It was especially so for those who had mocked Wang Xian not long ago. Their bodies stiffened, and they broke out in cold sweat. All the disciples from the 8th Baron were killed, the small fries in their mouths. Tisk, do you think our Dragon King is someone you can humiliate? At this time, Orochi waved his arm, and black lines attacked the surrounding people. No, don't, sir. No. The horrified voices came to an abrupt halt, as more than a dozen figures were killed instantly. All right, let's go. Wang Xian looked around and said to Tianjun and the rest. Yes, Dragon King. Tianjun nodded. Orochi and the rest immediately kept the surrounding corpses. Tianjun waved his arm, and the 9-colored space disappeared. Let's go, Invincible. Let's reminisce. You guys come along too. Wang Xian looked to Invincible, Hong Fengyan, and the rest as he spoke. Wahahaha. I, Invincible, am going to be rich. Hahaha, Boss Wang, you're too awesome. You're too awesome. The Dragon Palace is too awesome. Invincible, who had been standing at the back, was dumbfounded as he jumped up and down excitedly. Boss Wang, I, Invincible, will be your most loyal follower in the future. He hugged Wang Xian's thigh excitedly and shouted with a straight face. Dragon Palace. Just by listening to the discussions of the surrounding people, he knew how awesome the Dragon Palace was. Moreover, the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace was his boss. In that case, wouldn't he be able to ascend to the heavens? In the future, who would dare to offend him in this resplendent starry sky? Now that he had an emperor god as his master, he was still very awesome. However, he still had to be wary of the 8 barons. Now that his boss was the Dragon King, he didn't even need to care about the 8 barons. You might be getting older, but your IQ hasn't changed. Wang Xian kicked his body and commented speechlessly. Hahaha, I, Invincible, have to hug Boss Wang's thigh tightly. Others can't do so even if they want to. Haha. Invincible Fighter jumped up and said with a grin. Let's go. Wang Xian patted him on the shoulder and turned to look at Hong Fengyan. Hong Fengyan looked at him and revealed a smile. All right, Dragon King. Wang Xian chuckled. With a swift move, he flew out of the windless forest. Behind him, Orochi, and Roving Demon immediately followed. Yalu Ing and the rest followed behind in a daze and couldn't react in time. Haha, Tianxin. I'll go and have a chat with Boss Wang Xian first. I'll look for you in a few days. Invincible Warrior waved his hand to the side. Chapter 2861. Tremors in the 8 directions on. Brother Woody is going to soar in the world. Wang Xian led the group of people and left. Their figures disappeared immediately. The few young men behind Tianxin broke the silence with their eyes wide open. Woody knows the Dragon King of Dragon Palace, and is on such good terms with him. Tianxin's mouth was agape, and her face was filled with shock. Her background was equally powerful. She had an emperor god for a father. As her father's youngest daughter, she was doted on. But her father and Shang Shui Emperor were emperor gods without any forces. Compared to the 8 forces in Bedazzling Star, they were still far behind. Not to mention the strength of the Dragon Palace, which was one of the top 3 forces. Who would dare to bully Invincible when he had such a boss? Woody will probably be even more arrogant in the future. Tianxin murmured. Behind her, the few middle-aged men twitched their mouths when they heard this. But they shrunk their heads as they looked in the direction where Woody disappeared. It seemed like they couldn't go against Invincible in the future. Looking at his relationship with the Dragon King of Dragon Palace, it would be easy for Invincible to let the Dragon King or his subordinates teach 1 or 2 people a lesson in the future. One should know that the Dragon King of Dragon Palace was someone who dared to kill an emperor god of 8 wilderness. He even declared that if 8 wilderness were to fight, Dragon Palace would accept it. How domineering was that? Boom! Who would have thought that the young man was the Dragon King? SSS, that casual aura, that faint domineering aura. No wonder he's the Dragon King of Dragon Palace and Bedazzling Star. An emperor god. We actually saw an emperor god being killed with our own eyes. Emperor god Fengmi couldn't even put up a fight in front of the emperor god of Dragon Palace. Invincible is going to soar in the world with the help of Dragon Palace. He's much more powerful than his master, Shangshui Emperor. I guess he'll be even more arrogant in the future. An emperor god of 8 wilderness, 3 guardians, and a group of experts have been killed. This is a huge loss for 8 wilderness. Will 8 wilderness fight Dragon Palace? It's hard to say. In the rankings of Bedazzling Star, Dragon Palace is ranked higher than 8 wilderness. But they still have their arch-enemies Imperial Court and Witch Alliance. The silence on this side was broken. Everyone in the surroundings was discussing in shock. Their eyes were filled with excitement. Today's scene would be the capital for them to brag about in the future. The might of the Dragon King, and the fall of a god emperor. Everything was enough for them to talk for hours. Soon after, the people around him transmitted the information to the communication stone plate. The death of a god emperor was a shocking matter in the entire 8 Desolation 6 directions. In particular, this god emperor was killed under the orders of the Dragon Palace's Dragon King. However, the people from Ba Huang are really unlucky. A few of their disciples actually wanted to kill the Dragon King and steal his treasure. They brought this upon themselves. Some people thought to themselves as they flew out of the windless forest. They could already predict that the next tremor would take place in all directions. Do you know what happened in the windless forest? 8 desolate wind exterminating god emperor has fallen. Dragon Palace god emperor killed wind exterminating god emperor. Big news, big news. The disciples of Ba Huang angered the Dragon King of Dragon Palace. The god emperor experts of Dragon Palace killed all the disciples of Ba Huang. Wind exterminating god emperor has fallen. And god emperor has fallen. The might of the Dragon King of Dragon Palace killed wind exterminating god emperor, and said that if Ba Huang were to go to war, Dragon Palace would accept it. Even if Wang Xian and the rest flew, it would still take more than 10 hours to get from the windless forest to the planet where they lived. Before Wang Xian and the rest returned to Lanhua Star, the incident in the windless forest had already begun to ferment in all directions. The transmission speed of the communication stone plate was extremely fast. A piece of information instantly spread to all corners of the 8 Desolation 6 directions. At first, some people were doubtful about the authenticity of the information. However, when thousands of experts verified it, the entire communication network of the 8 Desolation 6 directions was instantly boiling. The death of an god emperor was shocking enough. Moreover, it was an god emperor from Ba Huang who was killed by Dragon Palace. God emperors were existences that could suppress a force in every force. Each of them was supreme. Now that an god emperor had died, it was highly likely that it would lead to a clash between 2 forces. A fall of this level was already enough to ignite a great war. The communication network was in an uproar. The people in 8 Desolation 6 directions gradually understood everything that had happened in the windless forest. While they were scolding the disciples of 8 directions for being stupid and deserving of death, they were also shocked by the might of the Dragon King. However, the might of the Dragon King displeased the disciples of 8 directions. All of them were clamoring to teach the Dragon King of Dragon Palace a lesson. This was 8 directions, not the Imperial Star region of Dragon Palace. After all, this was the home ground of 8 directions. 50% of the people here were disciples of 8 directions. Naturally, there were many voices of dissatisfaction with the Dragon King. Many disciples of 8 directions said that the Dragon King was too arrogant and did not take them seriously. The news has been verified. Wind exterminating has fallen. He was killed by an Emperor God expert from Dragon Palace. Moreover, that guy from Sky Formation has appeared. At the same time, in a hall in 8 directions, 15 figures were sitting in it. 8 directions, the highest known grotto heaven in the entire 8 directions. Now it was occupied by 8 directions. There were 15 figures, and each of them represented a god emperor. In the middle there was an old man. The old man did not sit on a chair, but on a divine deer. The divine deer had 2 huge horns that gave off a mystical glow. At this moment, the 15 of them looked a little embarrassed. An emperor god of 8 directions had been killed, and it had caused a huge commotion. The entire 8 directions was waiting to see how 8 directions would react. If they did not do anything, the other party would think that 8 directions was afraid of Dragon Palace. Once they took action, it would be a huge war. Especially when the guy from thousands of years ago was still alive. Although their feud had been resolved, and he was not as strong as he was at his peak, if he did not have the confidence to kill Sky Formation, he would recover to his peak sooner or later. Once he recovered to his peak, with the power of Dragon Palace, 8 directions would not be a match for them. The Dragon King is too arrogant. He said that if 8 directions were to start a war, they would accept it. Does he really think that 8 directions is easy to bully? An old man roared with a gloomy face. We have to give the disciples of 8 directions an explanation for Emperor God Exterminating's death, and also ourselves. Otherwise, it would be meaningless for us to establish 8 directions. An Emperor God of 8 directions, who was on good terms with Emperor God Exterminating, said. The others also frowned slightly. End of chapter. Chapter 2862. Tremors in all directions descend. The establishment of Ba Huang was the shortest among the 7 great powers of the bedazzling starry sky. They were not sect-like, nor were they family-like. They were built by experts who entered the 8 desolates in search of opportunities. The original purpose of the 8 desolates was to occupy more resources and treasures in the 8 desolates and 6 directions. Later on, he became a powerful existence. The death of Emperor God Emperor Wind Destruction did not make the group of Emperor God sad, because Wind Destruction God Emperor wasn't related to them by blood, and they didn't have deep feelings for each other. However, it was precisely because of this that they had to speak up for the deceased Emperor God Wind Destruction. If Emperor God Feng Ye was killed this time, wouldn't it be the same if they were killed in the future? No one avenged them. This was something that all the God Emperors had to consider. This was how the fox mourned the death of the rabbit. However, if they wanted revenge, they would have to face the Dragon Palace. They already knew the strength of the Dragon Palace. When they were pushed to the 4th place in the 8 wilderness, they had some understanding of the Dragon Palace. After all, the Imperial Court and Success Shaman Association had 2 second-order God Emperors in their ranks. This was especially true for the mages of the Shaman Society. Their combat power was close to unparalleled amongst second-order God Emperors. The Dragon Palace's strength was evident from the fact that they could not defeat the Dragon Palace under such circumstances. With our strength, we are no match for the Dragon Palace if we were to fight. The old man on the right revealed a contemplative expression and said with a solemn expression, "We don't have a powerful formation master among us, nor do we have such a treasure. Even if the Dragon King were here with us, it would be difficult for us to kill him." Another old man said with a frown, "The ability to seal a space was something only a powerful array master could do. If the heavenly formation could do it, so could the Shaman Association. Powerful forces would all have a type of spatial locking treasure that could also do this. But the 8 wastelands did not have such a treasure. If they failed to detain the Dragon King, they could easily escape and take revenge on them. Once all the God Emperors of the Dragon Palace came, it would be hard for the 8 Desolation to resist. If you want to avenge Feng Ye, there's only one way." At this moment, the old man riding on the divine deer spoke. When he opened his mouth to speak, everyone around him looked over with a hint of respect in their eyes. The old man was the founder of Ba Huang. He was known as Emperor God Huang. "He's here." Suddenly, Emperor God Desolation changed the topic. He smiled faintly and looked outside. The group of God Emperors was bewildered as they looked ahead. Reporting to Lord God Emperor Desolation, a God Emperor from the Imperial Court has come to visit. An Octoterra protector walked over and reported to him respectfully. Imperial Court. The eyes of the god emperors in the hall flickered. There's also the Witchcraft Association. They looked at each other. One of the 8 barren god emperors smiled. Call the god emperor of the imperial dynasty over. God Emperor Desolation ordered his subordinates. Yes. The protector who came to report immediately flew outside. Greetings, Emperor God Desolation. Very soon, an old man entered the hall. His gaze swept across the hall, and a smile appeared on his face. You must be Emperor God Shenwu. Please take a seat. Emperor God Desolation looked at Emperor God Shenwu of the Imperial Court and smiled. Thank you, Emperor God Desolation. Emperor God Shenwu cupped his fists and sat by the side. I wonder why Emperor God Shenwu is here today. Emperor God Desolation looked at him and asked plainly. Lord God Desolation, I shall be straightforward. I have already reported the conflict between Ba Huang and Dragon Palace to our Emperor Lord and the Witchcraft Association. Now I can represent the Imperial Court and Witchcraft Association. Lord God Desolation, you should be able to guess why I am here. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Dragon Palace is so arrogant and doesn't care about Ba Huang. We, the Imperial Court and Witchcraft Association, have a deep hatred for each other. I am here to represent the Imperial Court and Witchcraft Association in hopes of forming an alliance with Ba Huang to deal with Dragon Palace. Emperor God Shenwu of the Imperial Court said, We are not at the stage where we will fight to the death with Dragon Palace. Emperor God Desolation looked at him and said after a moment of silence, Lord God Desolation, the Dragon King has gone overboard by ordering his subordinates to kill an Emperor God of Ba Huang. Emperor God Shenwu furrowed his brows when he heard that. We need to discuss the matter of joining forces with you again. Emperor God Desolation said plainly, This all right. As long as Ba Huang agrees, the Imperial Court and Witchcraft Association will welcome Ba Huang to join us anytime. Emperor God Shenwu stood up, frowned and cupped his fists before flying out. Lord God Desolation, why don't we agree directly? Seeing the Emperor God of the Imperial Court leave, an Emperor God asked. Once we join their alliance, it will mean that we have become enemies with Dragon Palace. There might be no room for negotiation. Emperor God Desolation pondered deeply. Go and find out the location of the Dragon King. Emperor God Feng Mia, get the Dragon Palace to give us an explanation. He turned around and said to the surrounding Emperor Gods, Lord God Desolation, what if the Dragon King doesn't know what's good for him? An Emperor God asked with glistening eyes. If he doesn't know what's good for him, we have to give the disciples of Ba Huang and Feng Mia an explanation. As Emperor God Desolation said, his eyes shone with coldness. Yes. The group of Emperor Gods nodded. Order the disciples to find out the location of the Dragon King. Also, announce that the Dragon King of Dragon Palace has to give us an explanation for annihilating Ba Huang God Emperor. Emperor God Desolation's voice was heard in the hall before he disappeared. The rest of the Emperor Gods stood up and let out a cold aura. Dragon Palace had to give an explanation for annihilating the Emperor God of Ba Huang. Otherwise, where would the face of Ba Huang be? How would the disciples of Ba Huang look at their forces? News from Ba Huang. We have to give them an explanation for the death of Emperor God Feng Mia and the disciples of Ba Huang. If Ba Huang doesn't do anything after killing an Emperor God, it would be embarrassing. As expected, Ba Huang has made a statement. An Emperor God is the pillar of a force. It won't be easy to settle the matter after he was killed. If Dragon Palace doesn't give Ba Huang a satisfactory explanation, there will be a fight. Not long after, an announcement came from the communication network of the Desolation 6 Directions. There was only a short sentence. Dragon King of Dragon Palace has to give us an explanation for annihilating Ba Huang God Emperor. There was no threat in the sentence, but it showed Ba Huang's decision. An explanation. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.